Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla and I like to talk about books, so today we're going to talk about specifically a newer release called The Paris Apartment. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, I've read Lucy Foley's other two books. I don't know if she has more than just the two books, but I read The Guest List and The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, so I will leave some links to my reviews in the description box and like a card somewhere around here if you're interested in those, just to give it a little bit of background on my relationship with this author. But I discovered her kind of late last year and I've been pretty into her mysteries so far. So I started off with actually The Guest List first, and I liked that, and then I read The Hunting Party after that, and I actually loved The Hunting Party. I thought The Hunting Party was better than The Guest List, even though I know The Guest List received like a lot of hype. Not that it was bad, I just felt like The Hunting Party did it the same thing a little bit better. But I was very intrigued when it was announced that her new book was coming out. It was called The Paris Apartment, so obviously it takes place in Paris, and I was very intrigued to read it, not just because I had enjoyed her other work, but also because her other stories took place in really remote locations and the story was very location dependent. So I was extremely curious to see what she would do in a less remote location. So this taking place in like a big bustling city, I was very intrigued with what she would do with that and what kind of story she would tell. Anyway, let's just get into it. I want to talk first a little bit about the premise. It's going to be spoiler free, kind of not even really summary, just like the premise of the book, a little bit of summary, and then I'm going to get into the review. I will start spoiler free, and towards the end I will be talking about spoilers, and when that time comes I'm going to give a really clear warning. I'm also going to leave timestamps below for the kind of summary, review, and then the spoiler section. So if you haven't read it yet, that's okay. I'm going to do my best not to spoil it, but I will be talking about spoilers at the end of the video. Again, there will be a lot of warnings, so let's just go ahead and get into this. So the premise of the story is it follows this girl, Jess, who goes to visit her brother Ben in Paris, obviously the Paris apartment. He's gotten an apartment there, and he's actually just her half-brother, so they share a mom, different dads. Obviously it goes more into that backstory, but the main idea is that they grew up pretty differently. So initially they grew up together with their mom, and then something happens to their mom, they end up being split, and Jess grows up in foster care, and Ben actually gets adopted into a family and has a significantly nicer upbringing, for lack of a better word. Obviously they share a lot of commonalities, but they also ended up in their later years being raised pretty differently, and this sort of shapes who they are. So Jess is, working a lot of like waitressing jobs and has definitely had a hard time with like relationships and stuff like that in her adulthood. Ben seems a lot more stable. He's definitely adventurous though, and he's been working as a journalist. So she goes to visit him in Paris, where he's moved to like do some work and stuff like that, and she like quits her job rashly and comes to visit him, and right as she's arriving to visit him, he like stops responding to her messages. She gets to his apartment and he's like not picking up. She manages to get into the building and he's not there. So it kind of just starts off with this whole big mystery, like her brother's missing. As things kind of unravel, she meets like a lot of the neighbors in this apartment building and this community, and kind of is like trying to figure out what happened to her brother. I really liked this setup because I thought it was a little bit different than her other stories, which follow like a set group of friends that all kind of already know each other. It starts off with just obviously Jess and Ben, who are half sister and half brother. Ben got his apartment through his friend Nick, who also lives in that building. So there are some relationships right off the bat that we know about, but it is just definitely a little bit of a different vibe. Instead of it being like friend group goes on vacation, which is basically like the premise of her last two books, this is definitely a very different kind of vibe. It's obviously there's mystery to neighbors. I think we all wonder about our neighbors and things like that. So I really liked this idea, this premise, and especially being in such a big, sometimes I'm sure anonymous feeling, really bustling and kind of mysterious city like Paris. This is a really great idea and a great concept of having like a group of neighbors be more the focus than a group of friends. And that's basically the setup for the story. Oh, hi. My dog just came to lay by my feet. Oh my god, such a good dog. So that's basically the setup, the premise of this story. I don't really want to talk too much more about it without giving it away because there are a ton of twists and turns. So I'm just gonna go right into the review now because, as I said, I do not want to give away too much in my summary, so not a lot to be able to tell without giving spoilers. So let's go right into my review, which is that I overall really liked this book. In fact, I think I liked it maybe not as much as The Hunting Party, but I think I liked it better than The Guest List. I mean, it's hard to say, but basically it's exactly what I hoped for and none of the things I was worried about. So I was kind of not worried, but I was a little bit unsure about whether she could make the format she'd been relying on for her mysteries, whether she could make it work in a populous big city like Paris, because the last two books were in very remote locations and the story was very dependent on those locations being remote, on people being cut off from outside contact, and that drove a lot of the plot, and that definitely was a lot of what made them thrilling, mysterious, spooky. It added to the entire ambiance of the story, and it was almost like an additional character, those locations. So I definitely was unsure if this book could have the same vibe, could get those types of feelings without being in such a remote location. But because we start and we follow through Jess, who's an outsider and has never been to the city, I think we actually do manage to achieve a little bit of that isolated feeling without even being somewhere that is physically as isolated. So I actually think that that was really well done. She managed to pull it off. She managed to keep the mystery, keep everything there that kind of made it thrilling and mysterious and feel so remote, but also have it be something new and a taste of something new and be in, obviously, a city that's very populous. It's not at all like The Guest List, which took place on such a desolate island. So I really thought that was cool how she managed to pull that off, and it makes me admire her a lot more as a writer. I think that she pushed her boundaries a little bit, but kept her formula and adapted it to these new boundaries. It's so hard to explain, but I feel like if you know, you know. She also there's a set group of people, characters obviously, that the mystery is surrounding. She likes to switch off between point of view characters for all different characters, keeps that format in this book, and I really enjoy that format. But I think that what I liked a lot about this is she keeps the idea of the cast of characters that we're all kind of looking around towards, but she makes it that instead of it being a set group of friends like it was for both The Hunting Party and The Guest List, for this book it's not a group of friends, it's a group of neighbors, and the backstories are spilling out kind of in a different way. Again, like I said before, I also think we all kind of wonder about our neighbors, whether or not we're close with them, but these people that are living in such close proximity to you that you could know ultimately very little about. I think I love that idea. Again, it kind of plays into the whole vibe where she manages to capture a feeling of isolation, but also the feeling of isolation in a very crowded area. And that just adds to the mystery, that just adds to the ambiance, that just adds to the entire thrill and mystery of the book, which is the point. I'll just say another thing I really liked about this without giving away what the twists are. There are so many twists in this book. Her other books, I honestly called a lot of what ended up being the twists, maybe 2 out of 3 for each book. I definitely ended up knowing a lot of what was going to happen. It didn't make them less enjoyable, but I definitely guessed what a lot of the character relationships were going to end up being, and in this book, I did not guess at all, partly because it shifts and twists so much. So it just kind of kept going. There were definitely a lot of surprises up until pretty much the end. If you like that kind of a thing, you'll probably enjoy this a lot. It definitely felt to me more surprising than her other books that I've read. So I think it was just, overall a less predictable read than her other books. Generally, it's just a lot of interpersonal revelations and relationships, and Yeah, I really liked it, and I'm gonna start talking about some spoilers now. So if you have not read the book, up until now I've been trying really hard to keep this spoiler free, but I am going to be talking about the ending and a few spoilers. So if you don't want to hear that, please stop watching. I will also have this timestamped below. You've been warned. Please stop watching. So to me, one of the best twists of this book was, okay, so you think Ben is dead, you think Ben is dead. They really lead you to believe that. She leads you to believe that. Even Jess like sees his body and is like, oh my God, my brother's dead. And then he's not dead. And that twist, I don't know if other people like were like, whoa, I did not see that coming. But for me, I did not see that coming. That twist was crazy. And I also remember really thinking during some of the flashbacks, like, oh, Ben seems so like, yeah, he's got his little whatever, he's charming and a little bit cunning and he's not perfect, but like, I really did not want Jess to be by herself, and I really did not want him to be dead, and so I was happy about it. But like, whoa, that twist. And then it just piled and piled and piled. This is what I was talking about. There were so many twists and turns. Bam, we're gonna reveal that all the neighbors are like related and this is a family and this is all Nick's family. Oh, okay, that's a pretty big reveal. That's probably one of the bigger reveals, right? No, we're just gonna keep going and keep going. Oh, and also Nick's dad is like working in a really shady business. Oh my God, and also his wife, their stepmom used to like, it's just crazy. And also their stepsister, Mimi, is like also not even related, and she was basically like a stolen baby. Oh, and her mom was the groundskeeper concierge lady's daughter, who, and she followed her and she died during childbirth. And like, just the sheer amount of revelations, twists and turns. This book was so wild. Like, I loved the journey because it kept going one after another, but like they still all made sense to me. I don't know if that's just me. Like, they still all made sense. So I'm like, I'll swallow this. I'll swallow this. I was eating it up like third and fourth helpings of cake. Like, I will keep going. And it was incredible, right down to, and then she finds Ben's body and you think like, oh, this is it. And then it's another reveal and he's not even dead. And then, oh, but then Nick's like, okay, whose body was that we buried? And then it's another reveal and it was Jacques. I couldn't. And I feel like the biggest reveal of them all was really like Sophie's character, because I feel like she starts off seeming and appearing so harsh and so like austere, and like she doesn't like anybody, and especially Ben. And then she was a real onion of a character. There were a couple layers to peel back, and I really liked what we ended up with her. I think she really wanted to be a mom. She wanted someone to love. She wanted to be loved by her husband, but ultimately she just wanted to like have a family, I think, and having her daughter, her baby, was such a gift to her. And it was just really, she was a very interesting character to follow. I enjoyed following her journey. Oh, and even like the Nick and Ben reveal, like you thought at the time that was gonna be like a way bigger deal than it was. And then you're like, this like doesn't even, not like it doesn't matter, but you're just like, oh, this is small potatoes. Like, it just keeps going and keeps going. I don't know. I loved it. Spoiler section ended. I just really needed to like freak out about that for a second, because yeah. I think that's basically going to be it for this review. Like I said, I don't have a ton of negative things to say. I just enjoyed the journey. Maybe if I sit with it for a little bit longer, I will have some negative things to say, but I want to get this review out as soon as possible. So if you like other Lucy Foley books, I feel like you'll probably enjoy it. That's going to be it for this video. Let me know below if you've read it, what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will see you later.